This video, I go over all the flaws of the new Freddy Pack and Pixel Tower Defense Simulator. I will be discussing cost ratios, placement values, and its overall worth. On first placement, the Springtrap has a DPS of 1k for $500. That gives it a cost ratio of 2k DPS per 1k spent. On the first upgrade, you are adding an extra 618.75 damage for an extra $875, thus meaning you'll get a cost ratio of 950 damage per 1k spent. Going into upgrade 4, again, you will be adding an extra 618.75 damage for an extra $1,650, which gives it a cost ratio of $610 per 1k spent. Going on to the 5th upgrade, you add another 618.75 damage for a grand total of $2,000, giving this a cost ratio of $510 per 1k spent. Lastly, going into upgrade 6, you gain an extra 618.75 damage for another $2,400, which gives you a cost ratio of 0.44 per 1k spent. If you were having to take care of small leaks, I would suggest upgrading the Springtrap to level 2 or level 3. It is perfect for a money ratio and it does the job very well. Next up is Freddy. His base placement is $725 to place down, with a damage of 636, giving the cost ratio of 870 damage per 1k spent. Going into the second upgrade for Freddy, you can see that it adds an additional 333.75 damage for $1,250, giving it a cost ratio of $390 per 1k spent. This is absolutely terrible, but since Freddy is an AoE tower, let's assume that he's hitting at least 3 enemies at once, making this an extra 1,170 damage per 1k spent, which is incredible. Going into the third upgrade, you add an extra 333 damage for an extra $1,800, making that a cost ratio of $290 per 1k spent. But then again, let's assume that he's hitting 3 enemies, so that brings you up to a cost ratio of 870 damage per 1k spent. Going into upgrade 4, you can see that it adds an extra 333 damage for another $2,350, which leaves you with a cost ratio of $230 per 1k spent. But again, let's assume he's hitting 3 enemies at once, so it leaves you with a ratio of $690 per 1k spent. And finally, going on to upgrade 5, another 300 damage is applied to it for another cost of $2,900, which gives it a cost ratio of 190 damage per 1k spent. But let's assume again that it's hitting 3 enemies, so then it leaves it with a total of 570 damage per 1k spent. Freddy is really good for late game crowd control, and upgrading Freddy to level 2 gives you the best cost ratio. Overall, the Freddy Pack isn't a bad pack, as both the units will be a good addition to your team, unless you're a veteran and just buy it for the index.